ทุกคนครับวันนี้เอ็มได้มีโอกาสมาคุยกับคุณวิลโบเวนที่งาน Dragonfly Summit นะครับ Dragonfly Summit เป็นงานที่รวมเอาสปีกเกอร์และวิทยากรระดับโลกมาที่กรุงเทพมหานครแห่งนี้นะครับซึ่งงานนี้เนี่ยจะมีคอนเซปต์ที่สำคัญคือคำว่า lead well ครับคำว่า lead well มาจากคำสองคำคำแรกคือคำว่า leadership และคำที่สองก็คือ well being นะครับซึ่งคำสองคำนี้ทาง Dragonfly เนี่ยเขาเชื่อว่ามันเชื่อมโยงกันครับคือการที่เราจะออกไปเป็นผู้นำการที่เราจะมี leadership ที่ดีเนี่ยเราจะต้องมี well beingหรือว่ามีการดูแลสุขภาพกายสุขภาพใจของตนเองให้ดีก่อนนะครับก่อนที่จะออกไปทำงานที่มันมีผลกระทบกับคนหลักสิบหลักร้อยหลักพันหรือแม้กระทั่งหลักหมื่นคนครับซึ่งงานนี้เป็นงานที่ถ้าใครมาเนี่ยก็จะได้ฟังเนื้อหาสาระแก่นความรู้ที่สำคัญของการเป็นผู้นำในยุคนี้ครับ
The challenge with all of this though is that today it is easier to complain than ever and to stir people up. I mean, when I first started talking about complaining 20 years ago, everything was face-to-face complaints, or maybe an email, or maybe a letter. And nowadays, it's all online, it's all texting, etc. The main reason people complain is just to start a conversation. My brain is going to find a way for me to connect to you if I want to. And if I've made a commitment not to complain, then maybe I'll connect with you by saying, that is a beautiful blazer you're wearing, and where did you get those cool blue socks? Now we're connecting, but it's not a negative.
So what does it mean if you are a leader and you have that like positive energy along with you?
Like attracts like. As a leader, we should always be aspiring to be more positive, more can-do, rather than can't do, rather than negative. If you're a negative person, only negative people are going to stay with you. So my goal was to get people to become happy with what they have. And I encouraged people to go 21 days in a row without complaining. And the idea just exploded. So far, we've had over 15 million people in 106 countries take the complaint-free challenge.
Hello, welcome to Thailand.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
It's an honor for me to get to talk to you.
Thank you. Me as well.
We are not far from the stage where hundreds and thousands of leaders are coming here to Dragonfly Summit.
Yes.
To heal themselves before go out there and lead the world again.
Right.
What's your thought on like this concept of healing the leaders?
Well, I think that being a leader is like being married. It's going to bring up your stuff, you know? And when you lead other people, your unhealed issues are going to come up. So the most effective leaders that I know are the ones who constantly seek to improve themselves, personal development, so that they're prepared when challenges come up in leadership. So I think this is a wonderful thing. I think it's something that more leaders should do, and that is go to events like this.
What are some of those common unfulfilled issues that leaders are facing right now?
You know, I think that everyone is dealing with the results of the pandemic still in all of the countries that I visit, some more than others. When I was in Ireland, it was, the gas is extremely expensive there. And in the United States, we are still dealing with some very expensive grocery prices, etc. And all of this has caused leaders to struggle to find good people. More than ever, I find that the pandemic sort of shook up the whole workforce. A lot of people left and decided not to work. And as a result, it's a whole new challenge for leaders to find really good people and to keep them. Because if you hire somebody really great, somebody else may find out about it and hire them away from you. So it's almost like a constant courting process that you need to do. And in my speech, I talk about that, about how where there's a lot of complaining, there's a lot of turnover, and it's difficult to keep people.
Mm-hmm. Is there any advice that you want to give out to the leaders out there?
I speak on complaining. That's my topic. And complaining is always about what is wrong and what is missing. Great leaders are always focusing on what is present and what is working. And that's more of a gratitude-based approach. So it's important to be focused more on not what's missing, not, because there's always going to be times. As you were saying that about the economy and about war and everything like that, I thought to myself, somebody could have said the exact same thing 20 years ago. In other words, there's an old saying, in times like these, it helps to remember there have always been times like this. And we're probably in 10 years, if we're fortunate enough to get back together, going to be experiencing something. And in the middle, there are leaders. There are people who are seeing a way out of it rather than staying in it. And that's important.
Has it been any difference at all? I mean, you mentioned that 20 years ago,
Yeah.
people can come and say like, there's economic problem, there's wartime, and it's true. I mean, these things happen all the time. But is there any difference between 10 years ago and what's going on right now?
I think a very big difference. Without getting too political, this is just my opinion, the world is becoming far more conservative, far more on the right. The country that I live in, the United States certainly, and we're also seeing this in Europe and other countries, far more conservative. The other thing, which is not necessarily a bad thing, it just depends on wherever you're coming from. The challenge with all of this, though, is that today it is easier to complain than ever and to stir people up. I mean, when I first started talking about complaining 20 years ago, everything was face-to-face complaints, or maybe an email, or maybe a letter. And nowadays, it's all online, it's all texting, etc. And so that puts a separation between the person doing the complaining. So I think people feel more emboldened today. The other thing is, people are more aggrieved today. They are just, there's a saying that I use in my book, they are an ouch seeking a hurt. In other words, they're already going, and they don't even have anything to be upset with. And it still amazes me, in the United States, we live in one of the healthiest, wealthiest countries in the world, and yet people complain constantly. So I do feel that it is more common today, and I also feel like it's easier. And that makes it harder for leaders, I feel.
A lot of things get done in Bangkok, in Thailand. They said like a lot of things get done because we complain, especially in this political in this like bureaucratic system that it is right now in Thailand. Without a complaint, without like viral content on the internet, things will not get done. That's some what they say.
I understand, and I totally agree with you. And that's where I try and draw the distinction. The type of complaining that I'm working to help people not do is if I'm upset with you, but I complain to her. Do you understand what I mean? And if I'm trying to get other people motivated to a cause to make a change, I don't call that a complaint. That is a request for accountability. We want accountability from our leaders, whether they're political or religious or whatever. We want them to be accountable. And it takes many people, because people equal power. The more people you got, the more power you got. And nothing gets people I call it enrage and engage. If I enrage you, I will engage you. And if I can do that to move you towards a positive outcome, then that's more of a request for accountability, and I'm soliciting your involvement in that.
What made you interested in this topic?
I was teaching a class on prosperity 18 years ago. And what I noticed was I was teaching this class to people in the United States who, as I said, were living in the healthiest, wealthiest time in human history. It was pre-pandemic, it was pre-housing crisis. Everybody had it ostensibly good, And yet, what I noticed was people were coming to me to learn secrets for prosperity, which is great. The challenge is when you ask people what prosperity is, most people will say more. I want more love, more money, more time, more friends. But as the great Wayne Dyer, the author, said, if you're unhappy with what you have, why would you want more? So my goal was to get people to become happy with what they have. And I encouraged people to go 21 days in a row without complaining. And the idea just exploded. So far, we've had over 15 million people in 106 countries take the complaint-free challenge.
What are the lines though? I mean, like a lot of people are dealing with their inner self, their mental issues, and like having this concept, like I will never complain for another 21 days.
Right.
Sometimes it kind of could hurt oneself as well.
I disagree 100%. I've been doing this almost 20 years. One of the best things people can do is stop complaining. I often say that people will hear about my 21-day complaint-free challenge and they'll make some remark like, that all sounds great, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to go 21 days without complaining, but I got to wait till my life gets better. My life is so difficult. And I always say, yeah, and as soon as I get in great shape, I'll start going to the gym. Stopping complaining is the best thing. And again, let's contextualize what a complaint is. A complaint is speaking to someone who cannot resolve the issue. It's just making yourself out to be a victim of the situation.
I think the definition of complaining has a lot to do with this process, right?
Yes, yeah. I mean, technically, the dictionary defines complaining as to express grief, pain, or discontent. So, in other words, if you're expressing it, you've got to speak it out. And that you brought up something a few minutes ago about our inner process and everything like that. What we've discovered is that the number one side effect of trying to go 21 days in a row, whether you make it or not, we've had thousands of people try, millions of people try, thousands complete it. But what we've discovered is the number one side effect is you become a happier person. And here's why. The main reason people complain is just to start a conversation. Is it hot enough for you? You think it's ever going to stop raining? And really all I want to do is talk to you. But I can't figure out a positive way to do it. And so what happens is my brain is going to find, because we're social animals, human beings, my brain is going to find a way for me to connect to you if I want to. And if I've made a commitment not to complain, then maybe I'll connect with you by saying, that is a beautiful blazer you're wearing, and where did you get those cool blue socks? Now we're connecting, but it's not a negative connection.
Then how can we make sure that, okay, like if everyone in the world know that you will never complain, how can we make sure that you will not be taken advantage of?
Oh, that's a very good question. One of the myths is that people who complain, who don't complain, take my challenge, let's say, or are doormats. That's a term we use in the United States. You just wipe your feet on them before you go in. Nothing could be further from the truth. A complaint-free person is a person who speaks directly to the person who can resolve the issue. A chronic complainer speaks to everybody else. So they're the ones who are not getting their lives improved. They're the ones who are living as doormats. And what we need to do, my goal is not to get people to just turn all their emotions inside and not speak up, but it is to speak to people who can do what it is they want. One of the things that people don't seem to understand, which is interesting, especially as adults, is that to get something in life, we just have to ask. We don't have to demand, we don't have to complain, we don't have to whine. We just ask and keep asking.
So what does it mean if you are a leader and you have that like positive energy along with you? How does it amplify and how does it radiate well within your organization?
I once heard a saying that the leader always gets the followers they deserve. And where I live, I have two dentists, okay? One, they're across the street from each other and they do different things, so I go to both of them, right? One of them, everybody is happy. You walk in, you think you're showing up for a birthday party. They're excited to see you. Everybody is always in a good mood. The other place is like a dark cloud, and everybody's upset and everyone is angry. Now, here's the difference. The dentist, where everybody's happy, is herself a happy person. She's happy, she's upbeat. And there's an old saying, it was in Illusions by Richard Bach, one of my favorite books. Like attracts like. So as a leader, we should always be aspiring to be more positive, more can do, rather than can't do, rather than negative, because we're going to. It's not that we say, well, I'm going to go attract negative people. No, if you're a negative person, only negative people are going to stay with you. The positive people are going to leave and go across the street to the other dentist. Does that make sense? And vice versa. So it's extremely important for the attitude of the leader to be that of possibility rather than negativity. And there's always roadblocks. There's always problems. You know, most people wouldn't have a job if there wasn't some kind of problem. The thing is, we want to focus on solutions and outcomes rather than limitations and being stuck in the problem.
Then I assume that even with your strong concept and principle, but eventually you're going to get to deal with people with negativity.
Oh, yeah.
How did you deal with them?
So how do you deal with people who chronically complain? Because people complain just to get attention predominantly, start a conversation, these people were raised that way. I was raised that way. I was the middle child of 3 boys, and so I was always going to get my mother's attention because she's focused on my older and my younger brothers. And so when a person is raised that way or thinks you have to be negative to start a conversation, when you identify that person, you want to be prepared to ask them something positive. I always suggest, what's going well, all right? With whatever. What's going well with your job, your children, your dog? What was the best meal you ate in the last week? What's the best movie you've seen? But see, I do this without waiting for you to come to me with the complaint. When you walk up, I see you and I go, oh, I know I got to ask him something positive because he's likely to go on the negative side. I have a neighbor that way. And so I'm always asking her what she's happy about, what she spent time doing that she's really enjoyed. And I start the conversation. I don't let her because she likes to complain about everybody in our neighborhood. And I don't really want to hear it.
I like the fact that when you saw me, you can mention, like, you notice my jacket, you notice my socks, and you do that all the time?
I do my best to, yes. Human beings have a negativity bias. That's one thing I don't think we talk about enough. It's not good, it's not bad, it simply is. We think on average 45,000 thoughts a day, and most of them are negative. And so our initial response when we look at people, especially the people of our same gender, is whether or not they're a threat. And if we do that, what we try to do is we build up a reason why they are a threat. Oh, I don't like the way her hair is, or whatever. So it's a conscious choice to go beyond that initial reaction that most people have to find something more positive. And by trying to go 21 days in a row, because see, nobody makes it 21 days. It takes 4 to 8 months to go 21 days in a row without complaining, because the average person complains 15 to 30 times a day, and they don't know they're doing it. So the point is, you got to go from 30 to 29 to 28. So it takes a while. It's a process. Usually takes people, I find, 4 to 8 months to go 21 days in a row without complaining, if they stay with it.
So if you start doing it and you're not successful at the first attempt, then it's totally fine.
Right. Oh, of course, yes. This is not about, I'm never going to complain again. This is about, I'm going to do my best today not to complain. And if I do complain, I'm going to start back over on day one. The way I explained it in my speech is, you're on day one, then you're on day one, then you're on day one, then day one, then day one, day one, day one, day one, day one, day two, day one, because it's a process. And so most people who take my challenge are on day one most of the time. But the thing is, you become hyper aware of your complaining when you take the challenge. So you don't immediately break the habit. You've already got the habit. You become aware of it at first, and then over time, you lessen it.
Aside from Thailand, the concept of no complaints. Has it been traveling well across the world?
Oh, absolutely. My book, A Complaint-Free World, is now in close to 40 languages. I'd have to look to see, but somewhere around 40 languages. What's interesting is that in some countries, it's a huge number one bestseller, and in other countries, it does okay. China, huge bestseller. Russia, Czech Republic, Brazil, and then there are places like England where it goes, it's okay. I don't know. And I asked, because I was in London a few months ago, and somebody said, we don't want to stop complaining. We wouldn't know what to talk about.
How does it change your life?
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, I'm getting to come here and be with you and with everybody here in Thailand. And I've been able to travel to dozens of countries around the world and speak. And I do 30 to 40 speeches a year traveling. And it's just wonderful. I love it. I get to go places. I get to impact lives. And the people who then come back and tell me, I got an email from a woman in Italy about 6 months ago. And she had tattooed on her arm, A Complaint-Free World, the title of my book. Wow, how does that even happen? So it's given me a sense of purpose, a sense of mission, and something that I really enjoy studying and have really benefited personally from becoming an authority on, for my own psyche when I'm talking to other people, to be aware when I'm slipping over. Because what usually happens is one person will start complaining, and then it's almost like they grab your hand and pull you off the cliff, and you go with them. And so it has helped me become more conscious of that and learn how to turn things around when I'm talking to people.
When we were growing up, we have that bigger dreams, and now we are facing reality, like, okay, the dream that we want, we will never get to achieve.
Right.
How was your 40 years old self?
Well, that was a long time ago.
And how was it?
I do remember my 40-year-old self, and you're absolutely right. But let me contextualize this. When I was 10 years old, I thought I was going to be an astronaut cowboy, Superman, secret agent. You know what I mean? And as you grow older, you realize that's just not the way it's going to be. Now, me personally, I am living my dream. And you may not feel you are. However, think of all the people who would trade places with you. Think of all the people who admire and envy you. And that causes you to appreciate it that much more. I mean, for me personally, the best time of my life is that time on stage, looking in people's eyes, right? I never get nervous. I love it. And the idea that I would have come up with this as a child is crazy, but it's what I get to do. So it's almost like when you get to be 40, you go, well, I'm not up here, I'm not super rich, I don't have great hair, whatever, but what do I have? Again, it's that thing about focusing on what is present and what is working. You know, I may be bald, but I got a great smile. That kind of thing. And I think once you hit 40, there is an adjustment, but it's also helpful to realize that everyone around that age is having that same thing. It's not unique to you or to me. It's not like we go, oh man, I'm no good or I didn't make it. Other people are feeling that, you know, as well. And for that hour on stage that I'm able to get, sometimes, like I travel 24 hours to get here. People say, are you crazy? I say, yeah, that's the hardest thing I do is the travel. Would I sign up just to get on airplanes and everything like that? Not unless I'm going on a vacation or doing this. And this allows me, and so I push right on through it. And so when we get to be in our 40s, we're like, there's still a lot of junk I have to deal with, and there's a lot of stuff I don't want to do. But as a result, there's stuff I get to do. And the other thing, coming from a man who is now, I'll turn 65 in a month or two, it's never too late. It's never too late. I didn't become a professional speaker until I was 54, something like that, 56, 46, there you go. Anyway, the point is, it was well past 40. So I think what happens is people think, oh, I hit 40, I haven't made it. And people who are older just want to go, knock it off. You're younger than me. I wish I was younger. I was your age. So again, it's that appreciating what you have rather than what you don't have. You may be 40, but you're not dying. So focus on that.
A bit more on that. I think this is for general audience as well. So what would you tell your 40-year-old self back then?
I would tell my 40-year-old self, relax, have more fun, work less, spend more time with your family, take better care of your body, eat better. It's taken me many years to get to that. And I would tell myself, it's all going to be okay. And I'm hoping that if my 85-year-old self were sitting here next to me, he would look at me and whatever I'm facing right now, because we're always facing something, would ideally say to me, you're going to be okay.
Thank you very much, Will Bowen. It's an honor for me, and it's a very good hour to get to talk to you.
Thank you. My pleasure.
I get to hear myself a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you. ขอบคุณครับ
ขอบคุณครับ